Um, Hello, everybody. It's the Meister from Brews and Tunes. I'm here today interviewing Nick Sagias from Tribe of Pazuzu. So thanks very much for joining me, Nick. It's great to talk to you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So why don't well, let's first maybe kind of talk about the latest album, King of All Demons, got that here on CD. Great album, great EP. So that was released early this year in March. So kind of right around when the pandemic hit, I guess.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but it seems like it's sold out, if I remember correctly, from Bandcamp. Close to it, right?
The first one sold out. This one is close to. It's just for us. We only have like 100 copies of it.
Okay, cool. And it's that's what I'd say to. If you're a fan or if you want to check out some killer death metal, then definitely jump onto Bandcamp and grab this album before it's gone. Of course, you can still get a digital download, still be able to get that from Bandcamp. But if you want a physical copy, then I would say get on there right away and do so. So yeah, maybe you could talk a little bit about the album, kind of how it came about. Obviously, it's you got some killer band members. John McKenty from Incantation's in the band, as well as Flo Monier from Cryptopsy. Cryptopsy. I can't talk today at all. and Randy Harris also on guitar, and of course you're doing the vocals and bass. But yeah, some great stuff. So yeah, if you wouldn't maybe talk a little bit about the album, kind of how that came about, kind of how the band came about too.
All right, let's go back a bit because I guess I haven't talked to you before about any of this. So, and by the way, thank you for all the kind words there. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're digging it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's, awesome. Okay, so I guess we're going back to maybe 2016, roughly 2017. I'm thinking I was doing another band, Soulstorm, which I had for quite a long time, on and off. But this time we started back around 2011 to do the third Soulstorm album, and it was a little rocky back and forth, and a few shows here and there, and it was just kind of plodding along. And then there was a couple of recordings that kind of went south. They didn't really materialize. There was a lot of wasted time, wasted sessions. And I was just kind of growing a little impatient about the whole thing, and well, not impatient, more disillusioned, really. It just wasn't coming together. No one was really taking it seriously. So I kind of started, actually, and then I started a live band. But around 2017 is when I started thinking and writing for this kind of style, like not Soulstorm style, which is a little slower, doom kind of stuff. And then this was a little just going back into the more just faster. A lot of double bass, double kick stuff like that. A lot of like fast picking, just going back to the core of the death metal of what I liked, what I listened to, and just kind of rebuilding that kind of relationship I had with the heavy side of music. Not even the heavy side, but just the faster side, really, because of what I was doing. So I reached out to Jason DeVille, who does PR with his girlfriend, wife, they're called Black Element, and they started helping us a lot with the Soulstorm stuff, and and then with this stuff, he started kind of telling me what, or I was asking him, what could I do here? I mean, I want to have all these songs, I want to do something, but serious, not like a weekend thing, not just like once in a while. I really have these songs that I crafted, and I wanted to get them out there as best as they could, really, you know what I mean? So, I mean, because once you record something, it's forever, right? You know what I mean? You put it out there, it's just, you want it to be the best representation of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut corners in that, which a lot of people do. Like, it's like, I don't really want to save $100 in the studio over like a week of recording, when I'd rather put that $100 back into it and be like, let's do this properly. It's not a lot of money at the end of the day when you're talking about like the infinity of how long this music is going to last, so I just wanted to do it just properly, just do it right, So I asked Jason if he could help me find some people, and first conversation we had, he brought up Flo, he brought up John McEntee. So it was like, it started moving right away, like that. Like people were into it right away. They heard the demos. They were really excited about it. They liked the old school feel, and it was different than what they were doing, which is also kind of drew them to the project a little bit. Like, you know, so it was when I Flo was on board, when John was on board, I knew I was on the right track with something, because these guys are like professionals, and they've been in the scene for so long that when they liked what they heard from my music, I was pretty, it moved me a bit, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh wow, these guys, they dig it. That's cool, you know, like to have people in your band that dig it, and they could, you know, the professional level of musicianship quality that they have. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's basically it. You know, we just kind of started doing it, and I had some songs written, and I just wanted to bang off a couple EPs really quick, just to get them out there. I don't like waiting. I don't think many people do really.
All right.
So, you know, it was nice to get some songs out there and just kind of say like, look here, you know, hey, you know, here we are, Tribe of Pazuzu. It's going to get more relentless from here. But so here's the name. Here's what we're about. You know, let's go forward from here. So, and then I did the second one pretty quick. I think it was a year later. We went back in the studio, and so there's about a year and 1 month release difference between the two EPs. And you know, I just wrote new songs, and I was ready to go. And I also wanted to not have the project mentality around the band. I didn't want it to be just a project. I didn't want it to be called a project because at the beginning, you don't know where it's going to go, how into it everyone is, but everyone has shown a lot of interest, and you know, they've already said when there's touring, let me know. You know, whether there's shows, let me know. If you guys want to record again, let me know. So everyone's on board with all that stuff. The same lineup, the same everything. All, you know, so it's that's comforting as well to have consecutive releases with the same lineup. It's a good feeling too. You know, people are so they're into it, and it's just, you know, kind of just wanted to get it all out there and show people what we're about.
Great. Now, do you have plans for a full studio album?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, the writing's never stopped, but it's evolved a little bit since the first couple. Not evolved so much. I mean, it's still death metal. I mean, you know, but it's coming along right now, and I probably got about half of it mostly written, and then the other half is like there's ideas to stem from, which just haven't been cultivated enough yet. So, but there's enough of a starting point where I could there are like 8 different ideas at least, you know,
cool, for
the album. So far, it's about 8 songs, maybe 9. I'm not sure yet.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
When do you? Oh, sorry. When are you planning on getting into the studio to start recording?
I was hoping for next year, 2021, but because I knew this year. Also, another reason for the second EP was that the first EP was very short. Well, all EPs are short, right? I mean, but being that was our first and only release, and it was about 15 minutes of music, we couldn't really tour on it, you know? And I'm not into doing cover songs or whatever. So I was just like, you know, I'd rather just showcase our own stuff. And so instead of going right out on the road, I just spent that time writing the second EP and just getting that out. And now we have enough material for an opening slot and stuff, and we'll go from there. But it's just unfortunate that the timing was in March, and then we got into the virus stuff and everything shut down. So, you know, looking back, I guess I didn't really have to rush too much, but the second one out. But it is what it is. I mean, it's what else am I going to be doing, right? I mean, this is I want to write music, so I might as well just write it and get it out, right? So
now it sounds like you're the primary songwriter, or is it more collaborative, or?
I'm the primary songwriter for this. I mean, the other guys could add their touches on their instruments. Doesn't really affect the actual songwriting, but they just add ideas to it. You know, like John added some stuff, like some melodies and stuff, like different guitar parts that complemented on the first EP and stuff, and little things like that, you know. And I don't tell Flo what to do for fills and stuff like that. I mean, I tell him, like, you know, tempos and general beats of what I want, like, you know, here, put a blast here, put a slow one here, like, you know, they're all on the demos anyway. It's more or less how it should be by the end, you know what I mean? So he knows what to do, and I don't really give them too much direction other than that, you know. So And it's not that I don't want to write with anyone, but it's just that I have a particular style and vision that I'm trying to do right now. And you know, I mean, if it works, that if someone writes something and it works, then we'll go with that. But right now, it's just the only writer right now. I know John's very busy with a couple bands as well, and you know, so it's all good. It's you know,
Yeah.
I have no problems right now.
Well, I know when I talked to John earlier this year, and he was really excited to talk about Tribe of Pazuzu, and you know, in that interview, and he said, "Yeah, people need to check this band out. It's great." And that was one thing he kind of laughed about. Is he said, "Yeah, it's great. Like I don't have to. Like I just show up and play guitar. Like, I don't have to." You know, he's like,
Yeah,
"I don't have pressure like I do an incantation, so it's nice." He goes, "Yeah, it's all on Nick." But
yeah.
it's cool working with really talented people, and you know, and he obviously works with lots of talented people. But yeah, he really. Yeah, he was talking about the bands, you know, and that's when I immediately went and checked it out. I'm like, holy shit, this band is killer. I got to pick up these CDs. This is great stuff.
Thanks.
So,
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. Like I said, I'm really glad that everyone's like into it, like that we're doing. Like no one's just kind of like, yeah, so you know, just a gig, right? You know, like everyone's actually like, you know, what's up? What are we doing? Or you guys want to do something else? And you know, they're like, let me know if you want to do something else. They're all very coming forward with that kind of stuff. So that's a good feeling to have. So I'm glad they're all into it, you know, and like I said, it's not a diss to anyone's writing. I know he writes, John writes a little bit different and style and stuff like that. And it's not anything to do with that. It's just that I had this idea of what I wanted to do, and
nice.
you know, and so far everyone's liked the writing. Though, like John originally said, you know, if you need any help with the writing or anything, I said, yeah, sure. Like, you know, if you have anything to offer, like critiques, like, you know, this part's too long, yada yada, whatever it may be, you know what I mean? Like, you know, throw in some tips, what you have to offer, you know. And everyone was cool with everything, and I did my own editing in the end. So yeah, it worked out. Everyone loved it, so I'm very happy with that. Yeah.
Now, did you already know all of these guys? Did you kind of hand pick who you wanted to be in the band, or how did that come
Uh,
about?
yeah, I mean, yeah, they were handpicked, but it wasn't like a list of like everyone in the world. It was basically who we knew we could kind of we had, like Jason had a rapport with these people already. Like he does they did the PR for them. The Black Element did PR for Incantation and Relapse and Cryptopsy, so they knew them. You know, all the people. Like I know the bands. I've never met them personally. I never met John and Flo before this. So, but yeah, we wanted to do like something like not like cream of the crop, but you know, we wanted to have really professional people. If there's a blast involved, I want someone who could do like a blast properly.
Right.
You know, if there's you know, intense drumming like the way like Flo does, then yeah, you definitely want someone like that. You know what I mean? You don't want someone who could be like, well, I could try. You know, it's like I'm
Right.
not. And I appreciate people trying, but it's a bit of a waste of time when you're trying to be doing something else than just a Friday night jam. You know what I mean? It's a whole different, you know, dynamic, right? So yeah, I mean, we did want to find people who could pull it off, but definitely that was the goal for sure. Like that was why I went to Jason to find people, because I couldn't find people by myself.
Gotcha.
So
That makes sense.
yeah.
I mean, obviously with COVID, everything's kind of up in the air, but
Yeah.
so I'm hoping we'll see maybe some live shows. You might, hopefully there'll be some touring going on with the band eventually.
Yeah, I'm really hoping. Yeah. Well, we've already got offers. I mean, like our friends in Detroit want to bring us down. Centenary, we want to play with them. Actually, it would be great to. It just sucks that they're over the border.
Right.
You know. Well, actually, it doesn't. It just you know, because of the border, not because. I mean, I would love to play the States much more than I would love to play Canada. That's for sure. But
Yeah.
there's also like Cincinnati. There's a couple of There's a promoter down there. He offered us, you know, there's a few little things here and there, and like California, like a few shows and stuff like that. But nothing like that. It's going to be hard to just do like a couple one-offs with the lineup that's involved with this.
Right.
You know, I mean, like Flo lives in Montreal. John is all over the States right now. You know, he's like North Carolina. He's in Pittsburgh. I don't know where he's laying. So he's like Ohio. I think he also goes down there, and so it's. I'm not sure how easy it would be to pull that together right off the bat, like just to do some one-off. So we really want to do something like a tour to start with, and get the name out there. you know, and just kind of let people know that it's happening. Just start crushing some stages, you know. It's like
Yeah,
I really miss doing that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So
Hopefully we can get people healthy, and we can get tours going again, and get live music happening again. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it also, I mean, no live shows, like the entertainment is very lacking right now, and because of the virus stuff, and you can see people's moods are down, and you know, I mean, it's strange that you don't people kind of take advantage. They don't really think about how entertainment affects their lives sometimes, you know, and until they don't have it, you know.
right. Yeah.
I mean, what are we all doing right now? We're just watching repeats on TV, and you know, there's nothing new or good on really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. I've been watching, like I have a stationary bike that I'll exercise after work on, and yeah, I'll just stick my phone up there and watch YouTube videos of rock concerts, metal concerts, because
Yeah,
live music. So
yeah.
watch something. So
Yeah, and they're trying to, you know, I mean, I know some people have to kind of still, you know, adapt with what's going on. So they're trying to do the streaming concerts, and, you know, they're still charging, what, 20, $30 a pop, and you're sitting at home watching this. I mean, you can watch anything on the internet for free, and then all of a sudden these guys are charging $30 to watch them jam or something. And it's like, I don't know.
yeah,
Seems a little different to me. I mean, it's obviously different. Some people may like it, and you know, it's cool to watch the concert, but I don't know about paying $30 for it. I mean,
yeah,
I realize artists need to pay to, you know, live and stuff like that. You got to pay for art, but I don't know. It's a different vibe too. It's like you don't have the crowd in there either, like to feed off of. It's a symbiotic, you know, thing that happens at shows. It's not just like a band coming out on stage. It's like the audience is almost just as part of it. You know, like the energy of the place, everything.
yeah. I've watched a few of the these streaming concerts, live concerts, and yeah, it's bizarre, especially when they finish a song and it's just silent.
Yeah.
No clapping, nobody screaming. You're like, this is odd. But
Back at the beginning, Zealot Cult. I don't know if you heard of them. Uh, they're a great band. It's got that old school kind of vibe, death metal, like the early Obituary, Pestilence kind of style. Like, you know, so it's Morbid Angel. It's really good stuff. They did a live thing, and it was like the same thing. It was a great show, but you know, I see, you know, it's cool to watch these things. I'm just saying, like, but they did it for free anyway. They weren't like charging, so it was definitely like very entertaining.
yeah,
But to be the norm, I don't know.
yeah,
It seems a little odd.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like watching people rehearse.
Yeah.
It almost feels like sometimes, but oh well.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Let's go back in time a little bit. Maybe a lot. How did you get started in music? What was your start as a musician?
Let's see. I've probably going back to about like 81, 82, listening to like you know, getting into Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, whatever, like that kind of stuff would have been like. Those were probably the heavier bands at the time, I would think. Maybe then getting into like Exciter, and then probably around then, I'm trying to remember, 82, I think I started playing bass, or 83. So I think I know, I can't remember exactly, but I know Iron Maiden played a big role, like Steve Harris, and you know, the way he played, and you know, that he was the writer, and he wrote the lyrics, and these things kind of like rubbed off on me. And prior to even metal, where it would have been like stuff like Roger Waters and Pink Floyd, and you know, Geddy Lee and Rush, and you know, those were some bands that were early on before the actual metal stuff happened. You know, and these guys were also writers of music and lyrics, and they sang. And you know, I don't know if I really wanted to be a singer at the time, but I mean, I kind of did, and I kind of had ideas and lyrics. And then when the metal started happening, I guess it kind of just became my role. Like, we didn't have anyone, and we needed someone, and I kind of knew what we wanted. We all knew what we wanted, but nobody was singing that kind of style at the time. No one was singing like thrash stuff or metal stuff in the 80s, like not locally, at least. You know what I mean? There's a band here and there, but it's not going to be the norm, right? You know, like, where it's. And like now I see people, these kids, they want to start a band, and everyone's got like they're trying to sing, and they got the pipes, and they're like trying to do the guttural sounds and stuff like that. And everyone wants to be a singer, and they can all do it kind of. And it's like, it's kind of weird. Nobody even cared back then to even try that stuff. Like, you know, It's like the guy in the band is like, hey, you do that, you know. You guys do that low shit.
Right. Nice.
So yeah, I guess it just kind of happened that I think I kind of skipped a few years between like actually starting bass and like starting Overthrow, the first band we were doing. Um, so yeah, but I mean, I think Iron Maiden is where the thing started mostly, like as far as like the heavier stuff. And
Or did you play an instrument in school as well as that? And
no,
you have
no,
family that are musicians, or
no, actually,
you
no,
just
no, no.
just like the
Yeah.
music you wanted to play?
Um, yeah, pretty much. I had a couple other guys that I went to school with at the time, and they were kind of in the same thing. They wanted to play like some kind of stuff. We kind of listened to the same music and stuff like that. So it just kind of like stemmed from there, really. And we would listen to. There was a radio show that we had, and it was like a college radio show, aggressive rock, and probably found like most of the bands that we listened to through that. And that was Brian Taylor's show, who's a producer. He produced the Sacrifice albums and a few other
Oh, okay.
Sudden Impact and Slaughter and a few other Toronto bands like that. So, and he worked at this record store. So it was a little bit of a hub going there, and found out a lot of bands through that whole connection and just playing, and just started getting heavier from there, I guess, like listening to all the thrash stuff when it started coming out. Like, I mean, I remember hearing Seven Churches for the first time, or hearing Morbid Tales for the first time, being like 14 years old and hearing that on the radio, or you're just like, wow, this is blowing your mind, like you never heard anything like that before. And the vocals and the lyrics and the imagery, you're just like, if you ever want to be scared or you want to keep on playing repeat, like,
Right. Yeah.
so it's like, it was exciting back then for sure. I mean, you saw the birth of like thrash, and then saw the birth of death metal, and like it all happening. And even then it wasn't even defined like until almost years later, where it was like a couple years after the death metal. I remember it wasn't until like 1991 people started saying the words death metal, really. Like, I mean, even though when Morbid Angel came out, it was like definitely a lot different than the thrash bands we were listening to, like at the time. So there's definitely progression there for all that kind of stuff. I think, did I answer the question? Or
Yeah. Perfect. That was great. That was great. And your brother is a drummer, correct? And you
Yeah.
both played together in Soulstorm.
Yeah.
And now, so was he older, younger? How did he kind of get involved with how did you get involved playing together?
Okay, so he used to hang out when we used to rehearse with Overthrow, and he just kind of started taking to the drums, and in between rehearsing, he would just jump on the drums and started practicing, and just kind of went from there. So when I started Soulstorm, by that time he was already, he had the chops down. He had a couple of years behind him. Like, he got the meter down. He could, had a lot of power behind his playing. So I said, like, hey, let's do it. And I had a different idea for Soulstorm anyway. So it was like, just, I mean, it was just still trying stuff out. So, but I knew it was going to work. So, it was a lot of fun at the beginning doing all that stuff. And he was younger than me, and he just it's great to play with. Like, his style of drumming is like so ferocious, so intense. It's like, I love playing with him. Like, he was in a couple bands after Soulstorm, which he really got to showcase his his drumming a lot better. Like, Soulstorm was more of just like a laid back doom thing. It wasn't like too much showing off type of stuff in there, right? It was about like creating some moods and stuff like that. But after that, he joined Hard Ground. There was that band he was in, and then the last band he was in, probably about 10 years ago in Toronto, was Abyss, and that was a bit more grindcore and stuff like that. And just to hear his drumming play, like to do that kind of beat, and it's so clean too. Like, oh, it was like, yeah. So I knew I had to do something with him again. So when I was writing all the new stuff for Tribe, I had some hardcore riffs in there, some punk riffs that I wanted to explore. And then I started arranging the songs, and I was like, okay, these aren't going to fit for Tribe, but if I fleshed them out, I could probably do something with my brother, and have a nice little side project going. That's a different style from Tribe. It's something else that I've always wanted to explore. And seeing the state of punk and grind these days, I don't think it's that. I mean, it's time to get back to the heavy stuff again.
Yeah.
I want to play something heavy and angry and just like loud, and just not trying to fit into something like that people are and I don't even know what, I don't know. I know it sounds a little bit vague what I'm trying to say here, but it's just like I don't know. I don't think the new stuff is as aggressive. I don't know. Well, there's a lot of stuff that I find not as aggressive as is what is labeled. When you hear the term punk, you know, and you hear some of these bands, I was just like, is it punk though? I don't.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of poppy, and yeah, is
Yeah,
that
right. Yeah, they've definitely taken a page from the '90s Green Day kind of commercialization of the whole punk thing, of what a punk thing should be. And it's like, I'm not saying that's not punk, but I mean, maybe it's punk rock, or like, you know,
right?
pop punk, like you were saying, like pop. You know, it's like definitely has more pop elements than punk elements.
Yeah,
You know, and I'm not saying they don't work together, because they do sometimes, but I mean, it's not my preference, is what it.
right.
You know,
I
I'd rather listen to Poison Idea. You know.
yeah, I definitely agree with you. So you talked about working with your, you know, you've been doing some work with your brother. So are you actively in a band together now? Are you actually putting some? Are you going to be putting music out together?
Yeah, definitely putting something out. It's not a band. It's just me and him wanting to do some stuff that we've always wanted to do.
Cool.
Like I said, I had these songs. There's 9 songs that I've written, and I wanted to do something with him, and when I showed it to him, he loved it right away. So it was just like, yeah, let's do it then. You know, it's like, but we don't want to make it a band where it's like we have these commitments.
Hmm.
You know, because he's got like a full-time job. He's a welder. He's very, you know, he works a lot of hours, like overtime and stuff. And it's the guys. I don't want to, you know, hey, let's go do this. Let's go have some fun. You know, which it is fun, but I mean, at the same time, it's like I know the guy works a lot. He's got a family. You know, he doesn't have the same kind of time that I do. So,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
but definitely want to do something. Definitely want to at least record something. Definitely want to put on the books. You know, kind of have like, here's like something, another thing that I did that is something that I love, like another passion of music, and just to have it, you know, another statement of, you know, what heavy is.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so, and you've got another, and maybe this is the same. I was reading. What is Sphera? Sphera?
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sphera.
Sphera. Yeah. What can you tell me about that?
Oh, you read something about that? Where did you read that?
I don't even remember where I was reading some heavy metal like you know, webzine, and they and your name came up, and you know, and it listed Tribe of Pazuzu and you know, your older bands, but then it said Sphera, and I'm like, what is that? And I couldn't find anything, so I thought I would ask you about it and see what I could.
Well, okay, so yeah, I kind of glossed over that when we were talking before, because it's not. It's one of those kind of points. I'll tell you now. So it's like after Soulstorm, what I told you, like we had a couple failed recording sessions. We couldn't really. It wasn't working out. There was some things. It was like it was just a lot of issues at the end. It was really weird. So around 2016, that would have been. So I thought, okay, and I was the main writer in that, and but the guitarist in the band that I had at the time, we were starting to co-write. Okay, so but he had his songs, I had mine, so we were still writing. And then I thought, okay, well, what if we just started a whole new band instead of like continuing Soulstorm that's been for so long? You know, like let's start something fresh with this lineup, brand new live band, not even try to be like anything like Soulstorm was, but just play some metal, just do something, you know. So we started that, and we did we wrote 5 songs. We ended up doing a quick kind of live off the floor demo kind of thing, and it was very eye opening. You know, when I listened back to the demo, it was like it wasn't up to par. A lot of things, it wasn't really. Prepared. A lot of people weren't prepared for their parts going into it and stuff like that. So, which was actually the same problem that was happening at the end of Soulstorm. So the problem didn't fix. And about a year into that, you know, it was just kind of like, it wasn't really, I know a year doesn't sound like a lot of time, but when it's a continuation of something else, it's like, it still doesn't feel like, you know, like, I mean, it was enough time to realize that, you know, and I could tell by the way that nobody wanted to rehearse. It was really strange. So, you know, you add up these things and you're like, well, what are we doing? Like, I mean, you know, I'm trying to release music. I don't want to just be like in a band just to say I'm in a band.
Right.
You know, I have more to offer than that, really. Like, I have songs that I want to release, just, you know, put them out there. Just don't, you know what I mean? So it's like, I got stuff to do. Let's do it. That's all. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to do it. I don't know why they're there then. That's
Yeah. That makes, yeah. Why did you join? Why are you here?
yeah, because, you know, there are expectations of when you're in a band. Like, I mean, you know what you have to do, right? I mean, even if they just want to play, that's cool. Like, I'm not asking like everyone has to come up with music or whatever. Like, I mean, if you just want to show up and play and just do it properly, yeah, that's great. That's half the battle right there. You know what I mean? So, you know, you got to have some kind of drive, you know, like for what you're doing, like a passion at least, you know. So I think it's a very good mix now, like, is what's happening with Tribe, because so at the end of Sphera, it was just like it seemed like it was crumbling again the same way that Soulstorm was. It wasn't, you know, a lot of the work that was being done was being passed off to other people. Like, it wasn't like, some people were just like, whatever. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I mean, if it's just gonna be like, whatever, I can do this myself, you know, like. So, but anyway, like, with all the new guys, with everyone now, the whole team, everyone's into it. I love it. You know, I'm planning to do a lot more. There's at least, you know, a couple albums.
Nice.
Tours. It'd be great. Looking forward to it.
I'm excited to hear more. That I've been really digging what you guys are doing.
Thanks.
So, yeah, well, especially, you know, with an EP, and I guess in some ways it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because it leaves you wanting more, which is good, but it's also bad as, you know, as a consumer, you're like, God, I just want more. And there isn't anything yet, but
right, yeah.
That's a good problem to have. So I think,
I guess if people find out about it on the second EP, then they could go back and find the first EP at least.
Yeah.
But no, I know, and it almost seems like a mental thing. Like, now that when you're talking about it, I realized like that when you do have an EP, it does seem like, yeah, it's a very short offering. It's like a taste of like, hey, here's something to tide you over type thing. I mean, that's also been the mentality of the past in a way, the way EPs have been treated, I believe, you know, like, they're never on year-end lists. Everyone does album of the year. No one adds EPs on there. It's just like, I don't know, like, well, they're shunned, you know. It's just like, I don't know, it's still music. Why can't it be on the list?
Yeah,
you know, I've heard some EPs that blow away albums, you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's unfortunate that they often are dismissed, because like I said, you know, yours is, you know, great. I have lots of favorite EPs. I mean, there's some pretty amazing EPs out there.
Definitely.
You know, and really sought after on vinyl and whatnot. So
I've noticed a lot of people have been more gearing towards EPs, like people recording, like newer bands. They've been releasing like EPs at the first thing or whatever, or, you know, and stuff like that. Like, which I understand as well, which is kind of the mentality we were coming up. Like, I was trying to do like a quick, like, you know, just like, you know, little just throwing little bombs in and kind of walking away and seeing what happens. So you know, and it's like the response has been great so far, and you know, it's like I'm not complaining at all. It's so amazing. I love it. It's been humbling and you know, eye-opening, and you know, it's so like a good positive reinforcement of everything. It's like, it's very, very nice. It's a beautiful thing happening right now.
Good. It's good to hear.
Very excited about it. I think I lost where I was going with that answer there.
No, that's good. That's great. Now you post on your personal Facebook page, you post a lot of music. You listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
Are there any bands right now that you think your fans and also fans of my page should be, you know, bands you think people should be listening to, especially kind of younger, not necessarily younger, but just more unknown bands? Are there bands, you know, obviously you listen to a lot of underground music.
Always, yeah. That's been a reoccurring thing. Like even like back when back when we were listening to that radio stuff, when I was telling you, like when I first getting into the metal, it was always, let's find some new bands. Like, it's like, you know, you had, you know, Metallica, you had Slayer. It's like, yeah, okay, you know, Megadeth, it was cool. But then it's just like, well, let's hear some other stuff. Let's hear, like, I mean, there's more bands out there. There's not just 4 bands, you know, like, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So let's hear it. I mean, everyone's contributing to the soundscape of what metal is. So let's check it out. So I've always had that kind of hunger to check out kind of stuff like this, something new, something people are doing, because it's all art, and you know, so you don't know where some of these guys are going with what they're doing. So you know, you want to check it out.
Yeah.
So it's always stemmed from that. And then I remember even in the first band, Overthrow, I'd always have mixtapes, and I always have like tons of bands the other guys would never heard of, because I would always make trips downtown and like, oh, what's this new imports all the time, and oh, check it out. So way too much cash spent on that, you know, back in the day. So
Oh yeah.
you know, I put my time in, my money, you know, I was like, yeah, I was up until recently, you know, it was just like keep on just boom. So, but anyway, I guess that brings us to now. So new bands that I've been checking out, the stuff that I like. I mean, some of the stuff like that the guys that I've been dealing with are, you know, it's really cool stuff like Zealot Cult, for example. That was like for one I mentioned before. Love those guys. They went on Blood Harvest Records there.
Cool.
Abyss of Perdition, Mexico. They're like really heavy stuff. Centenary from Detroit.
Okay.
Love those guys. They got that kind of Swedish kind of HM2 sound.
Oh, cool.
You know, tune kind of stuff like that. I know there's a lot more. I'm just blanking out.
I didn't put you on the spot. I was just thinking, because you like I said, you post a lot of music, and I'm like, man,
is it a lot?
I've never heard of, but I love it.
It's always been like a thing. Like I just always trying to find like obscure stuff or just like cool stuff. Like you know, I mean, just a lot of stuff suffers from lack of distribution, lack of exposure. You know what I mean? Like there's other factors involved, obviously. Like I mean, you know, it's not easy to maintain 4 guys in a band over how many years, right? You know, so it's like it's a volatile situation to begin with, right? So you know, I mean, keeping that going, and then like, you know, trying to actually actively produce things and put them out and have people actually release it too. You know, it's a big chain of events that has to happen there sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you need a team behind you sometimes for that kind of stuff. But I like to post like stuff and just kind of keep people aware of what's going on, because other people post those bands too. They're not like I'm just posting this stuff randomly. You know what I mean? So some of that gets shared to me from other people. Some of that I discover from other labels or other bands or fans, and you know, just random posts. So it's still, I find it like it's similar to the tape trading days, where it's just like, you know, I'm still discovering bands daily, you know, weekly. There's still like tons of bands. Some of them I can't even get through the whole, you know, like the whole album sometimes, because it's like, here's another band. It's like, okay, hold on. You know, so you kind of have to be a little discerning of their taste there as well. But, you know, I mean, I went down to the death metal, black metal kind of thing there, the stuff I like. I see what other people are digging, and I try to share stuff that I think they would dig, you know, like, oh, these guys are posting Belphegor, they're probably going to dig this band, you know, just give them some, that kind of style, you know. You see people are digging like whatever they're liking, you know kind of what they might dig or not, right? So, and I know I kind of keep it more towards death metal and black metal, what I've been posting, but that's also, you know, I did it on purpose as well, right? I mean, like I used to share a wide variety of stuff before this, but I think it confuses people sometimes, like as well, like, or, you know, it's, so I just trying to keep it focused right now.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking about, I buy a lot of vinyl.
Right.
A friend of mine owns a vinyl store here where I live.
There's a recipe
Pardon?
Disaster. There's a recipe for losing some cash right there.
Oh yeah. And he can get all sorts of stuff for me. I mean, I basically just shoot him an email. I'm like, hey, can you get this?
Right.
5 minutes later, I can get it. This is what it costs. I'm like, oh, shit. So, but yeah, we were chatting last night about, and yeah, kind of the same thing. Like with my page, it used to be much wider in scope, and it still is to some degree. I mean, that's the funny thing is, you know, I posted Tribe of Pazuzu yesterday, and today I did a pairing with Tom Petty. So there's a wide range of stuff that I listen to. But I tend to do a lot more metal. I've found the majority of, I think, my readers are metalheads for the most part. Yeah. So I have to be kind of careful. Yeah, so I'm not going to post like Tori Amos or anything, but I listen to her. So you know, sure. You know,
I don't. Yeah, limiting your musical taste is one thing, but I mean, I think when I'm trying to present myself in public, like, I mean, I love a lot of different stuff, but I don't always show everybody everything that I listen to, or the wide scope of it. It's not really for everyone, you know what I mean? So it's like, I realize this, like, from past experiences of sharing like some crazy underground music, you know, that it'd be like, whoa, but it's like not for everyone, right? So that's cool, you know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to, I'm not trying to be diverse. I'm trying to be very focused and specific with what I'm doing. Like I feel that death metal has a blueprint for the most part over the years. Even like the early part of it pretty much set that tone, and it's not a bad thing. And it's like people think are like, oh, you know, I want to hear something new and fresh, but it's just like, well, you know what? I just want to hear someone doing it good. You know, just have some fucking solid riffs, good production, bang it out. You know what I mean? It's there's no bigger science to it than that. You know what I mean? Just have good riffs. You know, have some good lyrics. It's, you know, just arrange it nice. You know, it's not hard to do that. You know, it's just put it together and put it out there. You know, I mean, that's I don't know. I think I lost my track.
I almost feel like, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I almost feel like there's kind of a, for lack of a better term, it almost feels like there's kind of a death metal renaissance happening right now.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, it's been happening for a while, but I've noticed it in the past. I'm trying to think here, about 5 years for sure. It's like a really like an amping up of it, you know, like. But it's also old bands are getting together. There's a lot of new bands discovering metal and coming out like with sounds like, and you know, and all this kind of stuff. So it's yeah, it's a crazy time. Like I mean, we were there when all these styles were being formed, and you know, here we are now, like 30 years later, 35 years later, 40 years or whatever style you're talking about, and people are just getting into it now. It's like it's great, you know, but it's just one of those. It does seem like a resurgence for sure. I think like I'm not sure how that would have happened, but it's still very underground, of course. But and also I think there is something happening with like there's splitting off, and some people are trying to make it into more commercial thing. It reminds me of what happened back in '91. Okay, like everything that's happening right now. Like there was that big explosion, and then somewhere half the bands like sold out into different styles of music. If you remember 90, 91 at all, like a lot of bands were influenced by the Chili Peppers all of a sudden, and they wanted to go funk metal and, you know, listening to Fishbone and stuff like that. And it was just like, okay, but why is it metal? Like why funk metal now? And then there was also like all the Junkyard and Two Bit Thief and stuff like that going like more like a rock kind of like metal, like they were trying to be rock bands, you know. And it was like, what? Like you guys were in punk bands, you know, like now you're doing like commercial, like, you know, like kind of like a like classic rock almost sound, you know. It's like what? So yeah, the '90s, the early '90s were really weird, but then there was like, but there was that big explosion of death metal bands. But at the same time, there was like half of the bands that were in the like the late '80s, they were all changing their style, you know, into like different, like they were almost like they were trying to keep up or something because everyone was going to death metal at that time. So I think some bands were trying to find their sound or a new sound or something to be different, which is like when you look at it, like the reason why we got into metal was because it was different. It doesn't need to be more different than it already is.
Right.
You know, like I don't need to hear accordions in there, flutes or saxophones. That's not why I listen to metal. You know what I mean? Like it's got heavy distorted guitar and a guy screaming, some, you know, pounding drums. That's why I got into it. You know,
I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah. Simple.
So I have a really this is my naivete, and this is kind of an ignorant question. So pardon my ignorance on this, but what is the metal scene like in Toronto? What is metal like in Canada? Is it? I mean, and now you know, metal's become very global now, much more global, I think, than it ever was before. But is there a thriving, you know, especially underground metal? Is there a thriving metal scene in where you are?
Thriving. That's a strange word.
Sorry, kind of a loaded question.
No, it's a right word to use, but not for Toronto. Like, I mean, is it thriving here? I mean, I don't. There's bands here. Like for a city like Toronto and the size of Toronto, you would think you would hear almost kind of New York kind of proportions of bands, you know, and that's what they've always aspired to be like a little New York here, you know, like we could compete with you guys. Okay, where's the bands? At least New York, you could probably name like 10 bands off the bam, 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 right? Like no problem. Can you do that with Toronto? You know, there's a few, you know, from the 80s that, you know, that made some albums and they were, you know, in the surrounding areas. But now I don't hear about a lot of stuff. And at shows, I don't hear about a lot of stuff either. Like, I don't know if, like, I mean, obviously the last, you know, 8 months, but I mean, even before that, I don't remember hearing, you know, like these bands playing shows, a lot of these local bands. And then all of a sudden, these bands all have all albums out. There's at least like 3 or 4 bands I just discovered in the last week from Toronto that have albums out.
Oh,
and I'm like, I've never even heard of you guys. Like, I don't know. Like,
what?
so, like, I've never heard of their name as far as like a show list. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never seen their names on shows.
Wow.
I don't know where they all came from. Like, they all have albums now. They're not demos, they're albums. So, okay, I don't know. But I don't really know a lot of these bands. Like, I mean, I'm just listening for death metal, you know, like, and I have like an international ear going on for that. Like, I don't know if it's coming up in my backyard, and I don't know if I don't have access to it. I don't know it exists. I mean, it's the same as the old days without internet. I mean, like, if I don't know if I'm looking for something, how am I going to find it? Like, I mean, I don't know the names of these bands. I don't know these guys are like maybe newer to the scene or something like that, or I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
You know, like, put something out and then we'll go from there. You know, like, let me know. Is it death metal? Like, okay, you know. So I don't really know. I don't have really a total answer for that, because it seems like a lot of the times it's hard. You're hard pressed to come up with names of bands from Canada. A lot of people are, it seems, but there are a lot of them. But I don't know. It's scattered all over the place too. I know BC has a decent scene. There's a few bands from there. Here, then you could go to Montreal. Obviously, they've never really, you know, they still have like a great scene going on there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I guess, yeah, it still seems like in a lot of ways, even though metal is very global now and death metal is very global now, it still seems that it can be kind of what you're alluding to. Is it seems that sometimes it's still a little bit, you know, what's the right term? Compact. It's insulated in
right.
areas, you know.
Where, and yeah, for sure. I don't mean to cut you off, but I mean, admittedly, I don't go to as many shows as I used to, but I still look for flyers. I still look for stuff that's going on. And like I said, I don't recognize the band names, right? I mean, but I mean, I know like they're all, you know, networking. That's what we all used to do, right? I mean, when we go to shows, that's how people found out who we were back then. We used to, like, you know, spread the word, spread the name, like, you know, like,
right.
We're relentless about it. I'm still somewhat relentless about it. I mean, like, this, you know, this is my craft. I want people to hear it, right? I mean, like, I don't, you know, some people are like, I see they don't like shameless self-promotion. I hear it. It's just like, well, who else is going to promote it? You know, I mean, like, you know, like, say on Facebook, well, it's my page. What else? I mean, if I post my band once in a while, you know, I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I'm just saying, hey, by the way, I did this. I worked hard on it. You want to check it out? You know, like, I've been like, since March, I've been getting so many new friend requests on Facebook. It's insane. It's like, it's I'm almost going to hit the limit at 5,000 soon.
Wow.
And I was at 1,200 in March. So I don't know what happened. We released the second EP and I don't know. So I'm just doing the math on that. Like, I guess people like it. I don't know. Because the Facebook group, the band page is getting daily, you know, we passed 2,000 a couple days ago. We've only been a band not even 2 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've been talking to some other bands who've been around longer than that, and their list is climbing not as much, you know, like, I mean, so I'm thankful for all of that as well. Like, I mean, I don't know how much that reflects. I mean, I know it's the digital world, social media or whatever, but it has to reflect to a certain extent. I mean, you know, you go look at Incantation, they have over 100,000 followers on their page. So, you know, everything reflects something. I mean, you know, and these guys get a lot of tours. They have, you know, the response to their new album was amazing. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like they already have like a large loyal base, which is reflected somewhat. And, you know, so I'm just trying to use those numbers and trying to be like, well, I know it's not perfect numbers, but, you know, it's like, it's a good representation of things are going in the right direction, I think, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good thing. Yeah, very good thing.
Like instant feedback, you know, like you could get from this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a, so my kids are, my son's 21 and my daughter's 18, and trying to explain to them what music was like, not say music, but what like the industry was like and what it was like trying to find music when I was his age.
Yeah, right.
Where there wasn't even in the internet. So yeah, we had to talk to record store owners or talk to people and yeah, trade tapes. And yeah, I remember
Yeah,
trading lots of tapes and like, hey, have you checked out this band, or this band, have you heard of this band? And
yeah,
now you've got that on this huge global network, which is pretty cool and can be really overwhelming at the same time.
yeah,
But it's
definitely.
neat that I mean, now you can hear bands that I easily find bands that I only read about, back in the day.
Right.
Like, you couldn't find their music, or it would cost you a fortune to import it from England or wherever.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. True. There are so many bands. I guess I mean, when you're flipping through all the crates and you see the same bands all the time because you're always trying to find that new album, and and then you're always like, well, I wonder what this band sounds like, but you don't want to drop that import money on something. And I'm only discovering a lot of these bands within the last few years on YouTube. It's just like, oh yeah, what about that band? And it's like, oh, that's why I never checked them out.
Right. Yeah.
Some are hidden gems though. You're like, wow, I wish I found this out back then. Like stuff like that. And I think there was another point you made. Another thing about this whole global thing was I think it's easier to make music now too with software, and you could just record it, make an MP3 right away, and upload it. The same. You can do it all like right there. Like you don't even have to move. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You just sit there and play a song, record it, upload it. It's done, right? I mean, like you could probably even master it now. I think they have mastering things and stuff like that. Which I mean, it's still going to be a bit of an amateur level to that. But I mean, the fact that more people could have access to this stuff and do this kind of thing, it's like kind of lends itself to that whole global vibe and just people like a DIY kind of vibe too, and just kind of just doing it for the love of it, for the love of metal.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool thing. Like like you see it growing, and it's an infectious thing. Like I mean, we listen to metal all our lives. Just there's a reason. I mean, like the distorted guitar, distortion. I just love distortion. I mean, like I realized that later, how much I love distortion. But like when you listen to those albums, like listening to, I see your posters there. I'm looking at like thinking of Jimmy Page, for example, playing some of those. I used to think, oh, this guy's just a sloppy guitarist. I didn't really think about it too much. But the soul he puts into it, the craft, like is just so amazing. Like his feeling, and like it's all in his hand. You know what I mean? Like you can't buy that. You know what I mean? Like you watch this guy play, and it's like magic. It's like his hand just floats.
Right.
So it's just like infectious watching these guys play these riffs and like the distortion and like even Eddie Van Halen, like passed away recently. This is like such a change, like what he did with the guitar and music, and like you throw on a Van Halen song and you're in a mood to like party. It's just like it had a perfect vibe, and it served its purpose well, and it's amazing. You throw that stuff on, and it just like it's almost like the tension goes away. You listen, it's like good tunes. It's like crack open a beer.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, that's why we listen to it. That's why it is what it is. I mean, it's it's people think metal is a negative thing, and but it's like you've been to countless shows, I'm sure. I've never seen violence at shows break out. I mean, once in a while, maybe someone's drunk, but I mean, that's rare. I mean, everyone kind of, everyone's pretty happy to be out watching metal bands. You know what I mean? No one's trying to cause any trouble.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it's a misconception because of the way we dress, and it's angry sounding and all that stuff, and it's always skulls and so that kind of thing, right? The imagery is putting off to some people, but I mean, it is what it is. That's also why we listen to it, right? Because it's not on the radio. It's not the pop music that everyone is regurgitating as well. So it's got that aspect to it.
You brought up good points. So my wife, so I got remarried a couple of years ago. My wife and I went. She's not a metalhead. She likes some metal. She's a big Sepultura fan, but she's not a metalhead per se. But for our honeymoon, we went on 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise.
Oh, right on.
She kept saying, and it's all metal. Like everybody on the ship is a metalhead, and she kept saying the whole time, like, these people are so friendly. Like everybody is so nice. Like it's like even the guys with the spikes and super friendly guy. Like everybody's super nice. She said that multiple times. Like
right.
Yeah, it's a kind of a community. It's kind of brothers and sisters. It's
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is funny. Like
outcasts. A lot of us kind of feel like outcasts, or we did. Especially when we were kids. So we
sure.
got bonded.
Yeah. I think
I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, actually, I interrupted you. You were telling your thing there, but yeah, I think that is actually a big element as well. The Outcast element is probably also why we listened to this, because it wasn't the top 40 stuff on the radio. But then again, the top 40 then was a little bit different. I guess it's when New Wave started to change everything on the radio, change it from the classic rock stuff.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of that kind of stuff back then. Yeah, in your teens is when you're going to feel that kind of outcast thing, or different, or you feel different, or you want to be different, or you don't want to be like everyone else, or like because of this and that. So that's, yeah, metal drew us, to that kind of stuff, whatever, as well. Like, I mean, I think there was that enchanting kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, where you're young and you see these guys on stage, and they're like, let's see, larger than life, and they're playing again, like, it's like, and you're like, holy shit, man, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Right.
Like, you're just like, 12, 13, 14 years old watching this. I mean, I didn't see a show until I was like, I think 17 or 18, but it was like, still, it was like, once I started going to shows, that was it. I mean, just, it was always shows after that. It wasn't just once in a while. It's just like, yeah, let's we gotta get more. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Do you remember what the first show was?
I'm trying to remember if it was DRI on the crossover tour with it was at like a small club show downtown, or if it was Metallica on the Master of Puppets tour when they were supposed to come. And yeah, actually, it was 86. Actually, that was right. It was 86. So 16 when I started going to shows.
Okay.
And I think it was that one. We were supposed to go see them at a smaller venue. And then after the album was released, and Cliff died, and then everything blew up, and all of a sudden they're playing fucking the where the hockey teams played. It was just like, holy shit, what's Metallica doing here? I wanted to see them at the small place,
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it also spoke to what was happening at the time, right? I mean, it was blowing up. Like who would have thought like Metallica would be playing at an arena? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
wow, like mind blowing at the time. 86. I mean, no one thought of that. So it's strange to see the rise and the decline, of metal, and then we're back in some kind of a resurgence again. So it's a very, very good thing. It hasn't really gone away. It went more underground, which I'm understanding, because I kind of left the scene a little bit, and I understood that I didn't want to be part of certain things. There was a time in there or whatever. I was just like, I was just doing my own thing. Especially with Soulstorm, I was just kind of like, just kind of do this and that. Wasn't really trying to be in any genre, which I think obviously was probably hurt us more in the end. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's just a little too original or whatever. You know what I mean? It wasn't hard to find shows to play with. Right. I mean, we did shows with Grave, we did shows with Intune, we did KMFDM, Screw. There was the industrial bands, so there was like, it was the whole thing. You know what I mean? There was from death metal to industrial. So it was fun. It was a fun ride. But, I think now I just want to be more focused about things, and I have a clearer view of what I want and what I want for myself, and, to be known for as well, too, like with music, and, to leave my mark as well. I didn't want it just to be kind of like drift off into nothing. So that's also another reason why I'm just still doing it. I mean, not that there's a lot of people in my age still doing the music, still doing bands, so it's like, why stop? I mean, I'm still writing, so it's like, let's keep doing it. I mean, I want to add to my body of work, and kind of like actually, say like, yeah, I could still pump it out. I could still
definitely some chops. Yeah,
thanks, man.
That's very good musician. So yeah, please keep going, because I mean Tribe of Pazuzu is phenomenal. I think a really amazing band, really good material. So I'm excited for more music.
And also, I think that some bands, when they start experimenting or trying to be more diverse or trying to be more, with something else, they start missing the mark of where they came from and why people were listening to them in the first place.
Yeah.
So I want to keep Tribe of Pazuzu focused, like I was saying earlier. This is the reason, because I don't want, if we end up being like the AC/DC of death metal, that's not a bad thing, because like it, I don't want to, I mean, there's going to be some differentiation of songs, here and there, of, like what I'm doing or whatever, but I don't want to let down the fans with like, oh, here's this crazy off the wall song that's not metal,
Yeah.
Like, well, what's the point of that? I mean, I'm just trying to feed my ego at that point as a songwriter, right? I mean, I'd rather appease the fans and do something that everyone's gonna love and be like, yeah, this is Tribe of Pazuzu. This is why I signed up in the first place. You know, this is what I want to listen to.
Cool.
So I want to keep that element of of the music, like a nice kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Consistency.
Oh, good. Nice. All right, cool. So one last question for you.
Okay.
So as you know, my blog, my page, I pair music and beer. So on a Saturday night, Nick, you're hanging out, sitting around. What beer do you crack open, and what album do you put on? What's your pairing?
This is my pairing right here. I got the weed here. Sorry, I know I'm not a big drinker.
That's cool.
And as far as beer, I'm even less of a beer drinker. Sometimes I drink Caesars. You guys have Caesars down there, or?
Not where I live.
Where are you from again? Sorry, I didn't even ask.
I'm in Utah, so.
Okay. Okay. You guys have what's the version you guys have? With the tomato juice and the vodka. I forgot the name. You got,
Bloody Mary.
That's it, right? So we have the same thing, but it's instead of tomato juice, it's the clamato juice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And vodka or whatever. So they call that a Caesar. They're pretty tasty, pretty refreshing. But it gets, you don't want to have more than a couple of those. Right. Like they get a little heavy with tomato juice or clamato. And then clamato juice on its own doesn't sound appealing at all because it's supposed to be like clam juice and tomato juice or something like that. It's like, doesn't sound appealing at all. I don't even know why I drink it, actually, now that I think about it. But I don't know, I'm trying to think of some beers here. I like Heineken. I like Heineken a lot.
Okay.
I don't know any of these craft beers. I just know the old kind of beers, and I don't know if this is just me, but my girlfriend at the time, when we went to Europe, we had some Heinekens, and they taste way better in Europe than they do here.
I'm sure.
So I don't know. Like maybe they just, I don't think it's a different formula, different recipe, but maybe something in the process, something gets changed, a little skunkier here, which is not when you go over there. I had it, especially when we were in Holland, we had it quite a few or whatever. So it was like, they tasted nice. I loved it. But I'm not really, because, I'd rather just smoke, really, have a couple of beers once in a while, whatever everyone else has.
Nice. And what album would you throw
album.
to chill out? Not necessarily chill out, but just album, to listen to while you're either smoking or drinking.
That always changes. Obviously, I don't have like a go-to, but I mean, like when I talk about like old stuff that I like, I've been listening to a lot of classic rock lately. In between all that, like, I mean, there's so much. It's all like, I'm trying to give you a ratio here. Maybe it's like 75% death metal, black metal, all that stuff that I've been posting. And then the rest of it is like classic rock and then other stuff that I listen to. But so I'll post some April Wine sometimes. I don't know if you know who they are. I
love April Wine.
Yeah, I love those guys too. But, and then what was Pink Floyd? I guess would be the one.
Nice.
If I was gonna pick something, it would probably be Pink Floyd. Usually, probably like "Wish You Were Here" album.
That's my favorite Pink Floyd album. I love that.
I think that's probably my favorite too. I'm thinking, but it's really close. I know The Wall. A lot of people, it's trendy to say that, or people who don't know Pink Floyd always say The Wall, but it's quite a tremendous piece of work. I mean,
that's genius.
There's a reason why they made a movie out of it, and people still talk about it. And it's like and a live album, and like so I mean, it's very powerful work. But it's not a go-to, right? I mean, I'm just saying as far as favorite work, but I mean, I would say "Wish You Were Here" is probably the one that I would go to a lot. That's for me.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me. It was a
thanks,
pleasure speaking with you, Nick. This was really fun. This was great.
Sorry for all the I had to reschedule and stuff like that, but
no worries. That was great. Cheers.
I had the jam with my brother.
Oh yeah, very cool. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that was really cool.
Cool.